What's up, everybody? Welcome to Geared Up. This is our weekly live broadcast where we talk about lighting, gear, photo techniques, just talk about photography in general, have a good time. You can ask questions, we'll answer them here, and we'll just have a lot of fun. If you're watching this on ProPhoto.com, you're gonna see some stuff popping up around the edges of the screen, like whenever I talk about certain products. If you want some more information on those things, you can click them and go check them out. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or any other social platform, that's not gonna happen. If you want that experience, go to ProPhoto.com. If you don't care, hang with us right here. We're gonna have a good time either way. So let's jump into what we're talking about today. Today, we're discussing lighting techniques that you need to think about when you're trying to emphasize or show texture in like a garment or anything else. Lighting can play a big role in how that stuff is perceived in the image. And we're gonna talk about some techniques today, fairly simple techniques to make sure you're getting everything that you might want to get out of a textured item. Like you're capturing kind of all the look and feel of that item, especially if you're doing something along the lines of like if you're photographing for like a catalog or some sort of like a lookbook or something like that. It's a really, really cool thing to know. So let's just talk about what it is in general that you need to be thinking about. So there's two things, one more important than the other, but they're both very important. So the first one is going to be lighting position. So if I were to take my light right here, this light, and leave it, you know, kind of, I always try to keep it eye line with me. I'm trying to make sure it's not too far into the face, but so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. So try to keep it at least eye line, but for the most part, the light's coming right at me, right? So it's gonna be really flat light. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do when you're creating texture, and the thing that makes texture perceptible, is its dimension. It's the highlights and it's the shadows. So whenever you're shooting dead on at your subject like this is going to kind of fill in all those nooks and crannies. You're not gonna get all the shadow because there's gonna be light hitting, you know, everything dead on. Like this shirt's not as textured. We have Kate in a sweater in a few minutes, and we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more. But when the light's coming straight at your subject, it's going to fill all that stuff in, and it's not going to be perceived as textured as it may be, or as textured as you would like it to be. So the first thing you want to try to do is get your light off axis of your subject. Now that means you can go left, you can go right, you can go up, you can go down. However you want to do it, you just don't want the light coming straight out of your, straight out of the light and just flat lighting your subject dead on. That's going to start taking away again from that dimension, from the light and the shadow. That's the part that is the most important. So light placement, huge, probably the biggest, because you can still do, you can still choose from a lot of different modifiers if you just put your light in the right place. Talking about modifiers, that's the second most important thing. So the bigger the modifier starts to get, so the softer the light starts to get, the more it's going to start to, again, fill in all those shadows. It's going to make it a little harder to see the texture or, you know, whatever design or pattern or something like that of the garment that you're photographing with. So ideally, you can go with the smaller light source. That's going to make the lines of the shadows sharper, so it's going to make it more defined. That being said, you can still get some really good texture out of a large softbox, which we're going to do here in just a few minutes. Again, it's just going to come back down to, do you have your light placed in a way that's going to allow for that to show up? So with that being said, we're going to take some photos and we're going to see all that stuff. So we're going to start with a soft light, just because I think people, well, you know what, let's just start with the hard light first. And then we'll do a comparison of hard light versus soft light, so you can kind of see that when it comes to showing that texture in the garment. So you ready to go, Kate?
Yeah.
Sweet. So since this is kind of already here, we're going to start with the first shot of the, this is an A2 on a OCF, the Click 2 adapter, so I can put a softbox on this. The reason I went with the A2 is just because the head size is smaller, and that way I can get a little bit sharper shadows with
they can see
the image.
from right here. Sorry. sorry.
Oh, they're going from the side. I'm talking to there. Cool. I just wanted you to see me talking with my profile is really all it is. It's this profile right here. It's my side actually. So cool. So let's get the camera going out. So again, A2 with the OCF click adapter. And again, that was just because of the size of the modifier would allow for me to keep the shadows, keep the light pretty hard and the shadows pretty tight. So I'm gonna be shooting Kate kind of chin area down just because this is really more about the garment than it is about a portrait of Kate. So this is just, again, something kind of that you can keep in mind whenever you are photographing for other things. So let's go, I know that I need to be at a power level of 6 for this. So let's go 3, 2, 1. So this is the shot straight on right here. Boom. So one of the things about this sweater is it's got a lot of variation in color. So that in and of itself is going to kind of show some texture, but it's a heavily knitted cardigan. So like it has some valleys and ridges and stuff like that we want to highlight. We want to show how, how textured this. I'm trying to think of like other words for texture because I feel like I'm saying texture. Yeah, but it just shows how much, again, how raised or lowered that is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the exact same light source that we had. So first we had it right over the top of the camera. So the angle of the light for the most part is the same angle as the camera. And now we're gonna kick it off to the side. So what we're doing now is we're taking that same light source, same size, it should be the same quality. And now we're raking it across the subject as opposed to shooting dead on, shooting flat. So let's do this right here. So we have the A2 powered. I know, if I'm not mistaken, I need to go up a stop from our experiment. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. So there. So I'm just gonna throw these up right here while we're still talking. Maybe you can kind of see them, maybe you can't, but yeah, it's fine. We'll dive into it more. But just again, because we were able to rake that light across, the way, the look and feel of the garment itself is more accurate to what it is in real life, whereas that, the straight on shot, it was a nice flat light, is super even, but it's not telling the whole story. So now let's try this all with a soft light. So I'm going to use an OCF 3-foot Octa on the Click OCF 2 adapter. So
do you want to do it straight on?
Since it's already kind of here, I'm going to take this shot first, I think, and then I'll scooch it back around. And if I'm not mistaken, this has to be at like power level of 9.
And if you guys have any questions,
yeah,
please
ask questions. We're gonna check the we'll be checking the chat here in just a moment too. So here we go. You ready, Kate? So this is same setup but with a softbox. So 3, 2, 1. Oh, might have powered up a little bit too much there. Let's take this back to like half a stop. 3, 2, 1. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a nice exposure. It's gonna look a little overexposed to you, just the actual feed itself is a touch contrasty, just a heads up. So let's I wanna get rid of that last shot just so I'm not confused by it. Perfect. And so now let's bring the softbox back around here, over the top of the camera. And I'm just going to get the softbox just out of the way of the lens. So lift this up here. And then looking at my screen, I'll just raise it up to where it's just out of the sight line of the lens. So let's go up a little bit more. So this way we're still, pretty flat with the light. Let's take this down to, okay, here we go, 3, 2, 1. Cool. It's still a nice shot, but again, especially now that we're using a softer light source, it's gonna start filling a lot of stuff. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna take one more shot before you get up, Kate. So that being said, you're seeing me move the light left to right a lot. Just because I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about light positioning and raking the light across the garment or your subject, that's kind of the easiest thing to think of is going left or right. But up and down work just as well. So we could take this same light, let's go up with it. I'm going to kind of kick it down a little bit. So there we go. Let's go there. Cool. I'm going to give it just a touch more juice. There we go. 3, 2. Oh, and I didn't even give it any time. But so now we went up with it. So, and that right there is starting to show some more of the texture in the shot. And that's with the soft light. We could do the same thing with the hard light. So we could go, take this off. If you wanted that more like, if you wanted more of a look where it was full on at your subject, where the light was kind of, you weren't getting any like directionality from one side or the other, you could do it this way and still get that texture in your shot. Actually, I know I need to power down to 7.8. Let's take it down to, here we go, 3, 2, 1. Very, very cool. Actually, I think I like that one better than all of them. So cool. Let's take a look at the shots. Thanks, Kate.
You're welcome.
So again, we were able to get that raking effect from the light by either going left or right or up or down. Very, very cool stuff. And we were able to do it with both the softbox and with the hard light. So let's look at all of these together. Let's go to full screen here. And then if you see any questions, Kate, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So,
Do you mind sliding into the frame?
oh yeah, I'm still out of the frame a little bit. Cool.
See your mug.
Cool. Sorry for everybody who has to see my mug. Cool. So let's go, these are my soft lights, boom and boom. So these are all 3 hard light images. One of them is not as, do I not have my straight on? That's my straight on shot right there. So let's get rid of this one. Cool. So here is the sweater right here with the A2 just slightly probably at like where she was sitting at nose line, maybe slightly higher, but pretty much dead on. It's very, very flat. And again, you can see the variations in the color of the sweater, but you can't so much see like the deep lines, like the peaks and the valleys of the sweater. Whereas on the second image, where we just take that light and we kick it over some, now you can see how you still see the variations, right? But now you're starting to pick up on these ridges. Very, very cool stuff. But it's one of those things that like if you might not have known, like if you were purchasing a shirt like this or this cardigan, you may not have known that it had that much texture. Maybe that was something that you wanted. Maybe that was something that you didn't want. So it's really, really huge for like if you're photographing for a company to get that kind of detail and to think about that kind of stuff, because one, you know, you want the company's going to want their product represented the best way it can be to a customer, because that's going to minimize returns. It's going to, you know, hopefully keep people more interested in what the thing is, especially if you're looking for that specific characteristic in a product. So things to think about and why you have to know these techniques is really, really big. And then here we took that same light, and instead of going to the side, we went up. Now, I could have raised it up some more and pointed it down a little bit more, raked it across, but we were still able to start seeing some,
There, we're back.
Hey, fun stuff.
Just making sure people
Yeah,
are
just
paying attention.
just keeping
That's right.
yeah, keeping it fresh. So, but because you were able to start pointing that light down a little bit more, you're able to start raking it across the subject as opposed to it coming straight on. So we were up here. Now, we were originally here when we were flat, and then we went up here, right? So now you have some light going downward. So you're starting to see some of these lines come back in a little bit deeper. You're getting some more of those shadows and those highlights, which are going to show you that texture. Very cool.
Irvin has a good question.
Yeah.
He says, Chris, I like the front lit skin texture, but prefer the side-on light for the detail of the cardigan. What is there a way to get both?
Yeah. So someone was asking. So who was it?
I'm gonna butcher it. I'm sorry. Irfan.
Irfan?
IRFAAN.
Irfan?
Irfan. maybe.
I'm gonna add accents to it to make it sound fancy. But
we apologize.
yes, really bad at names. But so Irfan likes the skin here, but loves the texture of the light here. So I'm doing all of
Say
the.
that one more time because I didn't have the images pulled up.
Oh, gotcha. So he likes the skin texture here on this image, but he likes the way the light hits the skin here on this image, but then the kind of the texture here. You can do a couple of things. You could add in a bigger light source to fill in some of those shadows. So maybe you just don't want these shadows to be so deep. You could easily take a bigger light source and just add a big fill light, and that would help out a bunch with that. We were able to, again, instead of kicking that light off so hard to the side, we were able to raise it up, and you could probably raise it up a little bit more or point it down a little bit more here with this shot and get some more texture in the image, or you could even probably move it closer to the subject to where it's raking down even more. And then you would get more definition. Here wise, if you're trying to have the best of both worlds, I would probably go with some sort of fill. And again, I didn't use a fill with this because I wanted to exaggerate the look so you could see what we're talking about. But you could go with some sort of a fill, and then you could add like another light with a grid onto the subject's face or something like that, or to get the light more dead on, and try not to let that affect the garment so much. So that way you could have this big fill light here to kind of maybe bring up some of the shadows, and it wouldn't feel so weird that there was another light source coming from this direction to fill in the subject's face. So I would leave this light raked out over here, right? I would put another light. This is probably a 3-light setup, unless you don't mind it being a little darker, but you're definitely going to see a light coming from this direction. So I'd go this way with my main. I'd put another light right here, kind of where this image was, with a grid on it, just on the subject's face to get that skin. And then I would add something relatively close to it, much larger, like my 4x6 or a 3x4, to kind of help it not feel like there's another light coming from that direction. So that's at least in my brain where I would go with it. So let's talk about soft light. So here, and I feel like where's my other soft light? I think this, oh yeah, that's right. This is my other soft light image.
Yeah.
Cool. So these are the 3 soft light images. So if we look here first, this is the image, is this my flat image? Wait a minute. Hold on, I've lost.
See, I told you should have done them in order.
I should have done them in order. No, I was right. This is my flat image. This right here is my flat image. This is right because I kicked it back over. So this is my flat image. See, I'm freaking myself out now because I didn't do things the way that I wanted. No, this is my above image. This is my flat image. Okay, I'm good now. Now we're back. Chris knows where he is. We've recovered. This is the flat image. This is the shot right down the middle, so you can see, again, not a lot of texture. And because we're working with a much bigger light source, you're not going to get, you're going to fill in a lot of that stuff. So again, a lot of the texture that you're still feeling in the shot is the variation in the different types of, in the different colors of the fabric. But even with the light just straight on, when we raised it up here, look at the difference in between the way that this fabric feels versus this fabric. You can start to see some of the ridges popping through. You're starting to get some of that texture back. And that was simply same modifier, same position, just raised up and pointed down. Okay, so we were able to keep a lot of that look and feel of the skin tone that Irfan was talking about earlier, but now we have some more texture on the body, right? Whereas you kick it off to the side again, even though it's still a big soft modifier, we still have tons of texture. So you're getting a nice soft light. You can look at the way the shadows and stuff are falling on the face and how, you know, smooth they fade away. But then again, you're still getting that raking, that light raking across the fabric, giving you the look and feel that you want of that fabric. So cool. Any other questions about anything?
Looks good.
It's pretty simple stuff. So just to a quick.
Oh yeah, and here you got it right. You got his name right.
I just had to work the Irfan. I had to work through it. So Major takeaways. The first one, there's two things you need to think about. One of them way more important than the second one, but again, they're both important. First one, position. So if the light is coming directly at your subject, you're not going to get the dimension that you need to create texture. Texture is created by light and shadow, right? So you need highlights, you need shadows, and you need them together to show that something has ridges and valleys. Cool. So position, most important. So if you take the light, you're shooting it straight on at your subject, you're gonna fill in a lot of that stuff that would create those shadows. So position, left or right, up or down, try not to be straight on. Cool. Second thing, hard light versus soft light. Yes, if you look at the images the last couple of images that we just did, those are all soft light images. So you can create texture with soft light, but if you really want to create texture, you would use a hard light source. Hold on, let me pull this up just so you can see it. You would use a hard light source. So because a hard light just does what it does, it creates sharp edges, sharp shadows, you're gonna define those shadows even more. So you're gonna get more definition between the highlights and the shadows, creating more texture. So position, off axis from your subject, either up, down, or left or right, and modifier selection. Again, the second one doesn't matter quite as much, but if you really need to exaggerate that texture, probably better go with a harder light source. Any other questions before we sign off?
It looks like Anders got some questions. He answered them though.
Sweet, Anders got some stuff in the chat. Perfect. Well, this has been really, really fun. It's super simple. It's not anything to overthink. If you just keep those two ideas in your mind while you're working on whatever it is that you're working on, you can get some awesome texture out of your images. If you have any other questions, if you want to jump into like a one-on-one breakout session with myself or Anders or our boy Giba, you can do that. You can check the link on profoto.com. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of your week. See you later. Peace out.